Hello everyone, this is Timothy Mark with Alexandria.
How's everybody doing today?
And we are World Paranormal Research Society. The website is worldparanormalresearchsociety.org. The Gmail, if you want to contact us for paranormal investigations or anything, is worldparanormalresearchsociety@gmail.com. This podcast is played on several different platforms, Spreaker.com. And I think that's where we get the most listeners from, Spreaker.com. And then we got it on Tumblr, iTunes, and also YouTube. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, click the like button and subscribe. Today is Friday the 13th, so happy Friday the 13th, everybody.
I hope everybody's having a very, very lucky day on this Friday the 13th.
And so, you know, we're going to get into some fun facts and stuff like that. And matter of fact, you know, I can tell you now that the Last Supper, there was 13 people at the table, 12 disciples and Jesus Christ. So that's 13. But before we get started on the history of Friday the 13th and everything, we want to talk about the film franchise with Jason Voorhees, which I have the tattoo of Jason on my left forearm. So it's definitely one of my favorite horror films. And if you go into Friday the 13th Part 1, Jason is not the killer. The mother's the killer. And Bessie Palmer played the mother. Then if you go into Friday the 13th Part 2, we see Jason, the baghead version. He didn't have a hockey mask. He had the baghead. And he was played by Warrington Gillette. And Warrington Gillette only played the unmasked Jason Voorhees, actually. So I shouldn't say he was played by Warrington Gillette. It was a stuntman who actually played Jason through the entire film. But at the very end, they put Warrington Gillette's face on there. And when they do horror conventions together, and I forget the stuntman's name. I used to know that real good. But when they do horror conventions together, they definitely argue about that. And I think that was wrong for the director to do that. He should actually just unmask the stuntman at that time. But so, like I say, Friday 13th Part 2, you had the baghead Jason. Friday 13th Part 3 is where Jason gets his hockey mask. And what a lot of people don't realize is for the first 4 films, Jason was actually still a human. He wasn't dead yet. So if you actually look at the story, and Sean Cunningham, the way that he wrote the story of Jason Voorhees, when Jason Voorhees drowned, he sustained. You can drown and not die. So Jason Voorhees was already a deformed child who developed brain damage, more brain damage.
From being clinically dead, you're saying, from the drowning?
From the drowning. However, Jason did live, and he was actually a human being all the way up to the 4th film where he was killed. So now, okay, in Part 3 he gets the hockey mask. Friday the 13th Part 4 he was killed. Interesting fact, I don't know if a lot of people paid attention to it or not, but Friday the 13th Part 5, Jason Voorhees is not even in the damn film except for maybe a whole 2 minutes where he is the ghost of Jason Voorhees. The ambulance driver actually dresses up like Jason and starts killing people because at the beginning of Friday the 13th Part 5, his son was at the camp and his son was killed. And so as a revenge, he dressed up like Jason, and it was revealed at the end that Jason wasn't even in the movie. He was only in there as a ghost. Friday the 13th Part 6, which is my favorite because, well, it's my second favorite. It's my second favorite because Friday the 13th Part 6 was filmed in Covington, Georgia, at Hard Labor Creek in Covington, Georgia. That was actually Camp Crystal Lake. And that's where Jason is brought back from the dead in the way that you would think that the revised Frankenstein was brought back through electricity. When he was stabbed, a lightning bolt hit the staff and brought Jason Voorhees back to life, but as more of a zombie creature, not in human form. And so in Part 7, because all the way up from 1 to 6, every movie had a different person playing Jason Voorhees. in Friday the 13th Part 7 is the first time that Kane Hodder actually plays Jason. And with Kane, that's Part 7 is where the film stops becoming more, it becomes more scary, I guess. Scarier. They try to make it darker and scarier. And my favorite scene from Friday the 13th Part 7 is when Jason, let's just say Jason jumps through the window. And when he jumps through the window, he's standing in the cabin and there's all these balloons behind him. That's probably my favorite scene, my favorite shot right there.
Balloons behind? Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's an awesome shot because you have this madman killer monster and standing behind him is party balloons. Friday the 13th Part 8 is Jason Takes Manhattan when Jason goes to New York. Friday the 13th Part 9, my least favorite film for several reasons. One, I did not like the new change. And unfortunately, every time we had a new Friday the 13th film, unfortunately, they would change Jason's look. Kind of fortunately for me, because I ended up with a mold from the Friday the 13th Part 6, which was filmed in Covington, Georgia, and I could use that as my creature from Timothy Mark Presents Chains horror series that I was doing. But in Part 9, they really made his head like all weird looking. They changed him up so much, and he became more of a demon that possessed people and had people killing people. He would possess people's bodies. He would jump from one body to the other. Yeah, because they blew him up in the beginning of the film. The SWAT teams and the military blew Jason up, and so he became a demon that was jumping from body to body. Jason X, when Jason Goes to Outer Space, that was another good one. I thought that was a good look, and I thought they should have continued with the look from the outer space when he was rebuilt and he had the new mask. I liked that. A lot of the fans didn't like that, but I really liked that one. And then Freddy vs. Jason was Part 11 officially. However, they decided to have a Chinese guy direct the damn thing. And they did not want Kane to be Jason anymore. Kane was Jason in Part 7, 8, 9, and Jason X, 10. But in Friday the 13th Part 11, Freddy vs. Jason, you had Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. And growing up in the 80s, the two people was Robert Englund playing Freddy Krueger, Kane Hodder playing Jason Voorhees. So the fans really wanted to see Kane and Robert go at it. However, the Chinese guy who has no fucking American history decided that he was going to have Ken Kirzinger play Jason, and I think that really fucked shit up. And then in the reboot, so after Friday the 13th Part 11, which is Freddy vs. Jason, they did the reboot of the series. The reboot of the series was really good. They had Derek Myers playing Jason. I thought he was a good Jason. And that film combines the first three movies. You take the first three movies of the original franchise, and it's all in that film. Because Jason gets his hockey mask and all that stuff. And he starts out as the baghead Jason. And I thought it was a really good film. But then they've been dropping the ball here lately. So yeah, so that's a brief rundown for people of the Friday the 13th film franchise. They're supposed to be coming out with a new film, but Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller can't get their shit together, and they've been arguing about money. So hopefully they get the film together.
And as you can clearly tell that Timothy is a huge fan, and he has a whole whack of knowledge that he can just say. So that's really a fan that's really studied up on the film and knows kind of the history of the film. And it is a good series. We actually seen Friday the 13th Killer Cut. I brought that.
And that was the reboot with Derek Myers playing.
Right.
Oh, was that? Let me see it.
I'm not quite sure.
I think that was the reboot with
But you hadn't
Derek
seen
Myers.
that one, is that correct?
Let me see. Friday the 13th. Yeah, this was the reboot, Killer Cut from Friday the 13th. Derek Myers playing Jason in that one. The Killer Cuts, I really didn't like I like the Killer Cut on the reboot, but when they do reboot, when they do the Killer Cut on the first three films, it really changes the whole films, and I think they suck. It's better to stick with the original cuts of the film and until you get to the reboot, which was with Derek Myers, and that killer cut was good. Yeah.
And, you know, on the subject of Friday the 13th, I was out and about today doing a wee bit of errands. And, you know, there was not too many people out in the public when I was doing my errands that were discussing Friday the 13th, except for a few people when I was in the store trying to get some things from the shop, just talking about black cats. And you know what, if we really dissect the origins of superstitions, really origins of superstitions can really be a hard thing to pin down. And with any kind of superstitions, there's so many theories out there that get started, and then you have a whole bunch of people ready to debunk these theories as well. And Friday the 13th is one of these examples of these theories, and we have people rushing to debunk them as well. I consider Friday the 13th a very, very lucky day myself, and I don't think it's anything to do with unlucky. But there is that train of thought as well. As you know, I have an interest in the Knights Templar as well, and my Freemasonry family heritage. And a lot of people, there's a train of thought that the Friday the 13th became unlucky when the Knights Templar were arrested. And it says the Knights Templar were arrested on Friday, October 13th, 1307. And, you know, really we have to cut down to size. That really, truly isn't the origins of the unlucky Friday the 13th superstition. And a lot of you may have your take on it. There's some people that argue before the 20th century, the 13th, Friday the 13th wasn't unlucky. And it's just a concept that came to light with early days. But, you know, on the 13th, Friday the 13th, 1307, there were Knights Templar indeed that were arrested and they were executed. There's a lot of fake news that come out on Friday the 13th. We have a lot of superstitions where people won't walk under ladders. They won't cross the path of black cats. So there's so many people that have these superstitions in regards to Friday the 13th. And I'm sure a lot of you have your own take on why it's unlucky. And for me, like I said, it's not unlucky. So, I mean, all of you out there may have that.
Yeah, and I want to play a little clip from Friday the 13th, part 1. And in this clip is Ron Milkey. He plays Officer Dorf. And I think this is a pretty funny clip if I can get it to play here.
Oh, shit. All right, who are you people?
Camp counselors. Nettie's just fooling around.
Yeah, right, I'm just fooling around. Coochies. Chief Christie, how are you people? Pay you for this? Hey, nice buy. Keep it smoking, boy.
Smoking. Don't smoke. Causes cancer.
You know what I mean. Would you just get up a spaceship or something? Colombian gold, man. Grass, hash, the weed. Dig it?
Hey, what's he talking about?
Hey, don't get smart.
Me?
So that was Officer Dorf asking him what they've been smoking. He played the police officer. We know most police officers are nothing but cowards and jackasses. But, you know, he played a funny one in there. Stereotypical harassing ass police officer. And so I thought it was a funny film. And with the problem that we've been having on law enforcement in this country lately, that's a whole different podcast. But
well, we could do endless podcasts
it
on that.
really sucks.
That would be unlucky in itself. But really,
reminds me of an NWA song I like.
Friday the 13th really is considered an unlucky day to so many people in Western superstition. And it really occurs when the 13th day of the month in the Gregorian calendar falls on a Friday. And what happens at least once every year can occur up to 3 times in the same year. For an example, in 2017, it occurred twice. And on and on and on. So this is really a Western superstition that people get kind of fearful of. And, you know, there's been a lot of different cultures. For example, in Spanish-speaking countries, instead of Friday, the Tuesday the 13th is considered a day of bad luck. So it's not Friday the 13th, it's Tuesday the 13th in a lot of Spanish-speaking countries. And the Greeks also considered Tuesday, and especially the 13th, an unlucky day. And Tuesday is considered dominated by the influence of Ares, the god of war, and Mars in Roman mythology. And actually, for a lot of you that may not know that, the fall of Constantinople to the Fourth Crusade occurred on Tuesday, April 13th in 1204. And then the fall of Constantinople to the Ottomans happened again on a Tuesday, the 29th of May, 1453. And those are particular dates in history that really strengthen the superstition about Tuesday being unlucky.
And I notice usually if it's a telephone solicitor or somebody like that, or somebody trying to sell me something, I would always give them the name Jason Voorhees, and people say, "Oh, I thought I heard that name," and I know Alexandria's talking more of the actual true fact history, and I'm still stuck on Friday the 13th.
But that's relevant because it is Friday the 13th, and why not bring the film into a lot of people that may not know too much about the film franchise series, so it makes sense.
Another fun fact about Friday the 13th, the 13 number, is if you ever watch The Munsters, Herman Munster, Lily Munster, Grandpa, Eddie Munster, Marilyn, you ever watch The Munsters, their address was 1313 Mockingbird Lane.
I think that's awesome. The Munsters was my favorite all-time TV series of all times.
Yeah, and I used to give that address out a lot when people would ask me for my address, and yeah, so.
You know, even to me, I mean, I have a medical background in mental health, and Friday the 13th and sundowning and the position of the moon really, and this is kind of data that according to the Stress Management Center and Phobia Institute in Asheville, North Carolina, an estimated of 17 to 21 million people, that's estimated, in the United States are affected by a fear of this day, Friday the 13th, and making it the most feared day and date in history. Some people are so fearful of this day that they are paralyzed by fear, and they actually avoid their normal routines like doing business, going to work. A lot of people will not go on an airplane on Friday the 13th, and some people will go to the extent of not even getting out of bed because they're so scared that something bad is going to happen on Friday the 13th. And other people, it's the reverse, where they think it's a lucky day. They will go and buy a lottery ticket. So we have the reverse, and it says, this is a statistic, it has been estimated that, this is in US dollars, folks, that $800 or $900 million is lost in business on this day in America, because people are so scared they won't even go grocery shopping because they think something's going to fall on their head. Like, wow, that's actually astronomical, that, you know, it affects people to the extent where it becomes a phobia.
Yeah, that's a little weird. That people won't go out or whatever. I mean, a lot of times I go out on Friday the 13th, don't even recognize that it's Friday the 13th.
Well, I mean, in our line of work, I mean, I consider it a lucky day, so I really don't think it's anything that should be, that it's unlucky. And actually, for talking about accidents and mishap, here's another study that was done in the British Medical Journal that was published in 1993, and this study really concluded the risk of hospital admission as a result of a transport accident may increase as much as 52% on the 13th. However, the authors of the study state the numbers of admissions from accidents are too small to even allow for any kind of meaningful analysis. So people have actually done studies and statistics on this, folks. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, I think a lot of y'all should go out on Amazon and purchase 13 of our books today, since it's a holiday. They make great gifts. Buy one for yourself and buy one for 12 of your friends. If you like Ed Gein, Vlad the Impaler, we have some fetish books out there as well. And we did a book, Alexandria did a book for men's health called Hairy Men. And it's definitely what you say, coffee table type of
Well,
book?
it's a coffee table type of book, and it's going to, part of the money that we raise will be going to men's health issues. So it's very, very important that we support men's health issues. So I think it's really a book that will spur a lot of conversation among your friends, and it's a really eye-catching and visually pleasing book. I mean, I can't say anything more than that, that I think it's a wonderful, pleasing book, and it's a must-have there.
Yeah, so I hope everybody's enjoyed, because by the time you hear this right here, most of your Friday the 13th will be over with if you live in the United States, if you're listening to this in the United States. So I hope y'all had a good Friday the 13th.
And another thing I want to mention to the listeners out there too, because we're still getting hype. Like I said, we're just still tweaking down. We're really looking forward to an up-and-coming investigation that we're going to be having. We're still waiting for confirmation on a few details, and you know, once we get that information, we will post it out to you, and it's really an opportunity that you don't want to miss out, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, if I can put it that way, I think.
Yeah, you can come join us if you email us at World Paranormal Research Society at gmail.com. You can come join us. We'll give you the details on how to join us on the investigation. We can only accept 10 people, so get the emails out there. And next Friday, you should hear back from us as far as the 10 that's been selected.
And I really, you know, I think we have to kind of sit down, and my philosophy in a lot of these things too, and I may be running off at the mouth, but I really don't care anyways, because I have a tendency to run off at the mouth on subjects that I believe in and that, you know, I kind of have some knowledge in. And I truly believe that superstitions, just like curses, only have power if we give them power. And a lot of people are so fearful about, you know, there's another superstition about you spill salt and you got to throw it over your shoulder. I mean, some of these superstitions and some of these traditions, if you want to call it that for lack of a better word, have been around for a very, very long time. And people, I mean, to me, I mean, just like a curse, it only has power if you allow it to take power over you. And I mean, we really don't know. Like I said, I gave you some information where the Greeks and other people thought that actually if the 13th fell on a Tuesday, based on 2 instances where Constantinople did fall, that Tuesday was actually more unlucky than Friday, and Friday being the Western twist on the 13th being unlucky. But let's put this in perspective. Remember when we caught the Goat Man on room 118? We were the only team to catch the Goat Man, and Timothy actually was quick to point out to me is that the Goat Man, the only information, because I did ask for his name several times during the investigation, and all he could clearly tell me was his name was Mr. M. And Timothy actually pointed out the fact that, what did you point out about the letter M in the alphabet?
It's number 13. It's the number 13th letter.
And, you know, I never thought about that because, I mean, you know, you can't think about everything. That's why Timothy and I work so well together. I can't think of everything, and when I fail on something, he'll think about something, and it's vice versa. But very interesting fact that Mr. M, the 13th letter of the alphabet.
Now, what sets us apart from all the other paranormal investigations out there, companies out there, is this: we're the only team to ever catch the Goat Man, who is a legend in the creature and monster world. We're the only person to ever catch him on video, film, still photography, anything. We're also the only company to ever catch an interdimensional traveler, which is on the Austin Pizza Garden. Actually, if you're watching this on YouTube, listening to this on YouTube, you can scroll down and you'll see a video called Austin Pizza Garden, The Gateway to Hell. In there, we caught her interdimensional traveler. And if you scroll down, scroll back up a little bit, you'll see room 118. Now, you have to scroll past all the podcasts and stuff like that and look at all our videos. But room 118's got the Goat Man in it. And Austin Pizza Garden, The Gateway to Hell has the interdimensional traveler. We catch the best evidence out there. We're not the most popular. However, 2 networks have contacted us to be on television. and I turned them down the first time. The second time, there's some negotiations going on, so we'll see what happens.
And I just want to sort of bring some more kind of tidbits and kind of interesting facts that a lot of you out there may not know about Friday the 13th. And in numerology, and I did write a book on lucky number 7, but in numerology, 12 is considered to be a complete number. So number 12, there's 12 hours, 12 months, 12 zodiac signs. So therefore, the number 13 is considered irregular. And Timothy did mention that there was 12 guests at the Last Supper.
Yeah, it was the Last Supper. It wasn't guests, it's the disciples. Well, Jesus Christ had his disciples. So you have 12 disciples in Jesus Christ, which makes it a table of 13.
And they actually said that, this is another train of thought, but they said that Judas Iscariot was actually considered being the traitor because he was the 13th.
No,
not in counting Jesus, but you're counting Jesus as the 13th, right?
Yeah, because oh man, see, this is where people put bullshit out there. And if you have 12 disciples, Judas would have been one of the 12 disciples.
I understand, thank you.
Jesus Christ would have been the 13th person at the table. However, that's the story that we've been told. Now, if it is the Last Supper, and they having a very nice meal there, it would be hard for me to believe that there was not other people there interacting with them. So I would think there would be more than 13 people. But in the paintings and everything, keep in mind the artist was not sitting there at the Last Supper painting the people at the table. But at the paintings and the story that we know, there was 13 people at the table. However, you know, I just believe that these men had women there with them too.
Okay, well that would make sense. And there are actually going to be 2 Friday the 13th in 2018, which is today, and then there'll be another one in July. And actually, there's actually a name for people that have this irrational fear of this day, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it because I will brutalize it, but I'm going to spell it for you. There is actually a
Dumbass?
phobia. No,
is that the name, Dumbass?
No. I will spell out this irrational phobia. It's PARASKEVIDEKATRIA phobia. Like unbelievable. I can't even begin to pronounce that name of this phobia.
What the hell is
I can't even.
Phobia.
That's the medical term for people that have this irrational fear of this day. Like,
how many letters is in that? Is it 13?
I more than 13. I mean, 13. I just have an irrational fear of looking at this word, because God help me if I ever had to pronounce it. That's why I didn't even want to brutalize it.
I think they put phobia. Look right here. Let me see this.
Phobia.
Go ahead and talk to me while I look at something.
So, as we've said before, in Spanish-speaking countries, Tuesday, the 13th, is more unlucky, and in Italy, it is the 17th that is considered unlucky. So it varies from country to country and time to time. And
if you're a drunk male in the bar, it's the dirty whore that's unlucky.
Okay, and other various indicators of bad luck associated with Friday the 13th, again, is a black cat crossing your path. If you break a mirror, you'll have 7 years of bad luck. Walking under a ladder, opening an umbrella indoors, and saying the name of Shakespeare's Scottish play in a theater. I don't know where that one came from. That's the first time I've ever heard that one. So those are just different takes on superstitions in regards to Friday the 13th. And, you know, again, people spilling salt, all these various superstitions, if they're done on Friday the 13th, people just go hog wild.
I know Brenda Anthony out there is extremely superstitious. And, yeah. And so I know you're superstitious out there. I don't know what you're doing today. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully my son Michael is not superstitious. And hopefully Nick and Mike's not superstitious.
No, and I mean, you know, we're going to bounce back. Like I said, most people have this theory that they said again that it's because of the Knights Templar were captured, tortured, and executed on the Friday, October 13th. That's where it came from. But there's so many other sources that go by older than that. Even in Canterbury Tales, Gregory Saucer also referred to the unlucky day, saying that starting a journey or a project on Friday is bad luck. So we have so many different references in regards to 13 being unlucky. And again, as a result of this fear of the number 13, many buildings and hotels, such as the Carlton Hotel in London, skipped having a 13th floor entirely. So in America, is
Well, I
there
mean, that's
the
kind of,
13th floor? Like, do hotels have 13 floors?
some of them don't, but here's the thing which these idiots ain't thinking about. Just because they don't call it the 13th floor don't mean there's not a fucking 13th floor. So if you have a 15-story building and you say, okay, I'm going to call it 14, you skip 13, really you're not skipping it. It's still there. It's built. It's there. It's just stupid.
Well, people just go overboard, and then here's another time when somebody's going completely fanatic or overboard, and they say that the number 13 is also associated with witchcraft. Bull crap, bollocks to that. And it's also deemed the number of witches that you need to form a coven. We know that absolutely hogwash. And so many people, like I said, I'm sure were petrified, wanting to wake up today, and it's actually a bunch of bull crap.
Well, here's the thing. We're going to actually get a real Wiccan on this show soon. And we're going to get a real witch on this show soon. So stay tuned for that. We reached out to several people, but several people are a little intimidated when it comes to being interviewed. If they're claiming to be one thing and they can't answer a question, then they'll be exposed.
Right, and I'm going to go into some more maybe bad things that have happened on Friday the 13th in the past, and you maybe kind of make you think about this. And the legendary rapper Tupac died on Friday, September 13th on 1996, and that's when he died, on the 13th. And then on Friday 13th, 1976, a man was killed when the roof of his flat caved in. And then let's go into more here. The life of a daredevil is always precarious, but the death of Sam Patch has left conspiracy theorists talking for many, many centuries. And that's in regards to that. Actually, in 1829, the Yankee Leaper attempted to jump from 125 feet into Niagara River near the falls. So these are more and more Friday the 13th or anonymous things that happen. And actually, the world was shocked when Kitty Genovese was brutally stabbed and raped by a stranger, March 13th, 1964. So people have just gone overboard in regards to Friday the 13th. On Friday the 13th, Friday, October 13th, 1972, a plane crashed into the Andes Mountains, killing 12 people. And actually, 16 of the survivors were forced to eat the bodies of the dead victims in order to keep themselves alive. And also, during World War II, the Nazis dropped 5 bombs on Buckingham Palace on September 13th, 1940. So these are just more facts. Another interesting fact, on July 13th, 1877, the first Grand Wizard of the KKK, Nathan Bedford Forrest, was born. So these are just weird people trying to link all these people with 13, saying that they're evil. And actually, the Bola cyclone struck Bangladesh and India, killing 500,000 people on Friday, November 13th, in 1970. And also, the original Black Friday occurred in 1989 on Friday, October 13th, when a failed buyout deal for United Airlines' parent company fell through, sending global markets plummeting. And the list just goes on and on and on, folks. In 2012, the Costa Concordia sank on Friday the 13th.
Hold on for a minute. I know that Alexandria had one definition for the fear, the phobia of Friday the 13th, but here's the scientific definition, and here's how you would pronounce it. So everybody listen. All right.
Triskaidekaphobia. Triskaidekaphobia. Triskaidekaphobia.
Wow, that's a mouthful, folks.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, I can't even say it, but you just heard it. That's the scientific word for the fear of Friday the 13th.
And like I said, try and say that several times with a mouthful. God help you. It's just unbelievable. And like I said, so many worldwide events that people are trying to attribute to Friday the 13th.
Did you talk about Apollo 13?
No, not yet. I haven't even touched on that. The list just goes on. Why don't you touch on Apollo 13?
Well, Apollo 13 was launched on April 11th, 1970, and for most people, I know y'all, if you're into science or anything, you probably heard of Apollo 13. And they suffered an oxygen tank explosion on April 13th. However, it did return safely to Earth. I believe Tom Hanks played in the movie Apollo 13.
Yeah, I think he did, yes.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
And then, you know, the list just goes on and on. There was devastating bushfires that actually tore through Victoria in Australia on January 13th, 1939. And the fire caused 36 fatalities in just one day.
Let me tell you something about Ireland. In Ireland, they have a Society of the Irish Motor Industry. And they will not put 13 on the license plates because they feel like people won't buy the cars.
You know, that's just absolutely unbelievable. And I'm sure if a lot of you actually sit down and analyze, you have heard so many different stories about family members, even yourself, that have different tales to tell about how you think Friday the 13th is unlucky for you. But another reason why it's going to be an extremely lucky day for me is that one of my all-time favorite movies is going to be on TV, Hocus Pocus. So that makes it a super lucky day that I get to see Hocus Pocus.
Now, did you touch on the 13 clubs at all?
No, I didn't. Maybe you can.
They had 13 clubs, the number 13 clubs, and 5 presidents were members of the club. Chester A. Arthur to Theodore Roosevelt. So it's pretty interesting that the presidents were members of clubs called 13. So that's an interesting fact. And in 1881, an influential group of New Yorkers led by U.S. Civil War veteran Captain William Fowler came together to put an end to this and other superstitions. They formed a dinner cabaret club, which they called the 13 Club. And that's how these presidents would, ever since the Civil War, would get in on the 13 Club to put an end to the superstition.
And, you know, it doesn't matter how many times somebody can tell you this or trying to enforce this in your mind. This day, Friday the 13th, continues to inspire dread, unease, and extreme fears of misfortune to a lot of people. And let's face it, people, there is really, when you dissect it and strip it down, there is really no logical reason to fear the occasional occurrence of any day and any date. Friday the 13th, really, we shouldn't be fearing this, but still it has, you know, huge noticeable impacts on the people, that people create this fear. And I think a lot of times we create these fears in our own mind, whether it be good or ill will feelings. We have the power to manipulate our surroundings, and it's just absolutely stunning.
Did you talk about Paris at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay. In November 2015, the Paris terrorist attacks took place on Friday the 13th, November 2015. So that's
wow.
Pretty interesting.
And here's another kind of scientific.
And let me hit one more thing. The Costa Concordia disaster occurred on Friday the 13th, January 2012, with a loss of 33 lives. So these are very recent tragedies.
Wow.
Yeah.
And here's another. Jane Risen is a behavioral scientist at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, and she found that superstitions can influence even non-believers. And in one study, Risen found that people who identify as superstitious and non-superstitious both believe a bad outcome is more likely when they've been jinxed, such as stating, somebody might say to them, won't get in a car accident. So really, there's been so much scientific research done on Friday the 13th, and I really think it really comes down to the power of the mind again and suggestion. I think if you're gonna have a bad day or an accident, I think you can almost will yourself to actually have that happen to you.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some more things that happened on Friday the 13th. On Friday the 13th, 1976, a man was killed when the roof of his apartment caved in. So it's definitely an unlucky day for him. On August 13th, 2010, which is very recent, 8 years ago, a 13-year-old boy was struck by lightning in Suffolk. And so, the boy lived, but he was struck by lightning. Again, you mentioned the Tupac Shakur death happening and the stock market crash. Now we're going to talk about a stuntman's death. The life of a daredevil is always precarious as it is. Sam Patch has left conspiracy theories talking for centuries. In 1829, the Yankee Leaper, now this is in 1829, attempted to jump from 125 feet into Niagara Rivers. Did you talk about that? Cause I know you brought up.
I mentioned about the Niagara River. He tried to jump. Yes.
Yeah. That was just plain fucking stupid. That don't have nothing to do with being unlucky. I mean, it was 175 feet. Who the fuck can jump?
Yeah, but
175
right away,
feet?
these people like to jump. It was Friday. It was the 13th. Unlucky 13. Like, get it together, people. Let's get real.
Yeah, that's just fucking stupid.
And there's even people in their attempt to try and escape the all in their mind unlucky day. Here's an example of somebody that tried to escape but ended up dead because of it. It happened to a New Yorker, Daz Baxter. And on Friday the 13th in 1976, Daz Baxter decided that he was going to stay in bed for the whole day so nothing bad would happen. But listen to this, folks. He stayed in bed the whole day only to be killed when the floor of his apartment block collapsed under him.
Wow. So see, if you meant to have disaster on Friday the 13th, it's going to happen.
It don't matter if it's the 13th or not, folks.
I want to cover some mine accidents from miners that's happened on Friday the 13th. Friday, February 13th, 1874, in Phoenix, there was an explosion and it killed 6 people. Friday, October 13th, in 1905, there was a mine fire that killed 6 people. Friday, August 13th, 1920, there was an explosion that killed, a mine explosion that killed 9 people. Friday, May 13th, 1927, there was another explosion that killed 8 people, miners. And so, at least in the mining community, I would understand that if you're a miner, how that would, people that mine the earth and stuff like that, I would understand how you could see that as an unlucky number.
And actually, the extreme lure of superstition, and going back a little bit in history, superstitions was really one of the first elements of paranormal beliefs that they began to study in the early 1900s. And here are some more different kind of superstitions about crossing your fingers, breaking the mirror again, lucky horseshoes, spilling salt, and everybody has a lucky rabbit foot, and all these. People have made so much money off of the anxiety of people and their superstition, whether it be Friday the 13th or anything to do with that. Absolutely a money-making thing. And it just became fashion to believe in these absolutely ridiculous superstitions in my mind.
Okay, now that's for Friday the 13th. We can pretty much wrap it up on that one, but I want to talk about a few other things when we got time on this podcast. Some other things that I don't understand. And I'm really into tattoos. And I've been researching tattoos now religiously for about two months straight. So I'm going to get more. But what the fuck is people getting all these Chinese tattoos when they don't have anything to do with Chinese culture, life, or anything like that? Matter of fact, if they ever went to China, they'd be spit on. This whole Chinese thing with the Chinese people in the back and the samurai. If you're a white American, you're no fucking samurai. Why can't you just get shit that is related to you? I get you might like the art and you might want to put it on you, but I think when you get a tattoo, it should be something that's important to yourself, or it may be something important to your ancestors, or something that has to do with you. All these people doing this stupid shit with Chinese and Japanese tattoos, I don't fucking understand it.
Well, you know, these are people...
But let me correct something real quick before you say that. However, although the Chinese use dragons, I do not consider a dragon to be a Chinese tattoo. So if you have a tattoo of a dragon, I don't consider it to be a tattoo. I'm just saying, if you get a fucking tattoo of a geisha, so if I'm saying
geisha
that right,
girl,
a geisha girl or a samurai or anything like that, or Japanese writing or Chinese writing, what the fuck are you doing? I just not, it's just stupidity to me.
See, my tattoos, and I thought I had 13 tattoos, but I have 12, don't I not? I'm going to be getting my 13th tattoo. So, I mean, all my tattoos that I have on are culturally, spiritually important to me, meaning my Celtic Norse heritage is very, very important. So it's a story of my heritage and where I come from. So they all have meaning in what I do every single day. So every tattoo requires much thought and design work. It's just not something, oh, I'm going to get a tattoo today and slap everything together. They are thought about, because let's face it, your body is your living canvas. It's going to be on for the rest of your life, and unless you want to wuss out and get laser surgery. But these are on for your life, and they should be visually pleasing to you and visually pleasing to the rest of the world, so it doesn't look like some kind of blob. Yeah, I have a tattoo that looks like a blob, Timothy keeps telling me, but it needs to be fixed up.
I think it's funny because here in Austin, Texas, there's a lot of people with the Capitol tattooed on their body. These same people would not be greeted well if they ever visited a Capitol. They don't own the fucking Capitol. They, I don't fucking understand it.
Well, these people,
but at least it's better than Chinese tattoos.
Yeah, but these are people that maybe they're lost on their path and they want to be in the click group and have, oh, I seen these guys with these awesome tattoos. Wrong idea to get a tattoo. Get a tattoo that's for you, not for anybody else. Do it for you. Be an individual.
A lot of gang members put the capital of Texas on them, and I don't understand it. I mean, I just don't fucking understand it.
Well, that's gang members, so I mean, that's...
Yeah, but, you know, and then they tattoo their face, and what the fuck is up with that? And I don't believe that you should tattoo your face unless your whole body's tattooed first. And so there's people out there with like 2 or 3 tattoos. They get their face tattooed. Well, you made a fucking smart decision. If you don't have enough money, or you're not a millionaire or something like that, then you know that's just fucking stupid.
Yeah, but you know, we're hoping that people will make responsible, sensible choices in their life and be unique. Be a limited edition of yourself. Don't be a wannabe. Be a leader, not a follower. Because, you know...
Too many followers out there.
Just be a limited edition of yourself. Being genuine to yourself. You don't need to follow the pack. Be who you are. I mean, we're not perfect. Nobody wants to be perfect. And there are no perfect people out there. Just be the best version of yourself that you can be, folks. And it takes time. We all falter. We all fail. But just be you.
Yep, just be you and be
confident.
Be a productive member of society. Don't be somebody that's out there littering and shit like that, and throwing cigarette butts on the ground and stuff like that. That's just weird. Oh.
Naming no names.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean. Don't be littering though.
But you know what? We really hope that today, Friday the 13th, you guys are having a super awesome day. I know we're getting ready to have a really good supper. We're going to gear out to watch Hocus Pocus. But you know what? don't hide under the covers. I hope you guys did something fun today, because Friday the 13th is a very lucky day. Come on, folks. Hollywood knew that. They made Friday the 13th franchise, so they made a lot of money.
Sean Cunningham made that, and yeah, man, it's
they seen the potential.
And here's a little known fact, and I'm putting it out there, and I know Sean and I know Ryan and them. And I know a lot of people from the Friday the 13th franchise, and I'm going to piss Sean off if he ever hears this. I'm pretty sure he don't ever sit down and listen to my fucking podcast. But one of the things that he did in the 70s, he produced a movie called, before he did Friday the 13th, he actually did Last House on the Left too, but before that, he did a movie called The Case of the Full Moon Murders. They've been trying to hide that film and bury that film, but it's still out there, and you can get it on DVD-R. And if you get a chance or you see it, The Case of the Full Moon Murders, definitely grab that one, because I think it's a great film. And the fact that they're trying to hide it, you know, I mean, so what? You know, he don't like it because he went on to do better films, but as a horror fan, it's still a good film.
So, you know what, guys? It's Friday. It's the beginning of a weekend. Get out there. Enjoy life. Don't be worried about black cats crossing your path. Embrace the black cat. Give it a hug. Give it a cat treat. Come on. Get out there and be productive.
All right, that's it for today. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Subscribe to us. And that's it, man. I'm hot. I'm getting out of here. Later.
Bye.